I've got every single Merge Tactics card in a tier list, and I'm going to be ranking them from worst to best. Now, I'm going to be ranking them based on their 3 factors: individual strength, their performance at various star levels, and we'll get into the third one a bit later on. So starting off, we have the Pekka. The Pekka can be really broken in basically any stage of the game. It has just way too high damage. A 3 or 4 star Pekka will basically one-shot most units on the map. The only problem with a Pekka is its extremely slow speed. As the rounds progress, players start getting ranged units which can quickly take down the Pekka. So if you're unable to upgrade the Pekka to a 3-star level, it might not be able to survive for long. I would place the Pekka in the B tier since she still packs a solid punch. Moving on, we have the Spear Goblin. I feel like the Spear Goblin desperately needs a buff. He's quite weak in 1v1 against other troops. Even if you upgrade him to higher star levels, he still doesn't provide much value. His hit speed is extremely slow, he just doesn't have enough hit points, and his range is low as well. I will place the Spear Goblin in the D tier because he's just horrible. Next, we have the Executioner. I personally don't like this card because of how situational it is. If you manage to get a good lineup on the enemy troops, then it'll prove to be the game changer for you, but that doesn't happen often in the actual match. A higher star Executioner can still be decent if played right. But remember the third factor I talked about earlier, it's actually synergy. How good does the Executioner synergize with other troops? Well, he belongs to the Throwers and Ace traits. While the Ace trait is decent, Throwers are absolutely garbage. That's why we already have 2 Throwers as the bottom 2 cards in the D tier. Next, we have the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie is just broken in the early stages of the game. There are not many cards that can beat her in a 1v1 combat. Her hit points are great, her area damage is super useful, and both her traits are just the absolute best in the game. Clan and Avenger are the 2 best traits in my opinion, and both of them feature the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie can become a bit weaker in the later stages of the game, but she'll still provide you with good value. I'm placing the Valkyrie in the A tier since she's so reliable. Next, we have the Knight. He's definitely a decent troop, although he won't win a lot of 1v1 situations early on in the game. The Knight isn't that good if he's underleveled, but he becomes super tanky if you manage to get him to 3 or 4 stars. A higher level Knight can basically tank even the most critical hits. Being a part of the Juggernaut and Noble traits, a lot of times people will overlook him and prefer other troops of these traits. A big reason for that could be his super low damage. While the Knight is super tanky, his damage is just way too less as compared to the other Juggernauts. I think I would place him in the C tier for now. Next up, we have the Royal Ghost. If you've been playing Merge Tactics since the start, you've most likely felt the pain of losing all your troops to a single Royal Ghost. He's just that broken! After 3 hits, he becomes invisible, and a lot of times it seems that he's basically just immortal. I guess he is though. But jokes aside, the Royal Ghost is really strong in every stage of the game. Him being a part of the Assassin trait just makes him even more annoying, since he can just appear right on top of your backline troops and wipe them out in an instant. A 3-star Royal Ghost is just incredibly difficult to deal with. The Royal Ghost has to be our first S tier card on this list. Next, we have the Bomber. I think it's okay in some scenarios, especially if your opponent is dumb enough to space out their troops against the Bomber. He's a bit better than the Spear Goblin since he has splash damage and more hit points. The Bomber can be a great asset early on in the game if you protect him with a decent HP unit, but in the later stages of the match, he feels completely useless, even if you upgrade him to a good start level. His traits are horrible too, since he's a thrower. Considering that, I will place the Bomber in a D tier. Moving on, we have the Goblin. This is probably the easiest card to get to the max star level. A lot of players use the Goblin strategy early on, where they will always have at least 2 goblins on the map. Every turn, they keep on getting a random goblin, which makes it quite easy to upgrade the goblin cards to max level. The Goblin is also a part of the Assassin trait, which is possibly one of the top 3 traits in the game. His damage is super high, with good attack speed. The Goblin can be a solid choice for any stage of the game, especially because he can take care of the backline troops. I would put the Goblin in the B tier. Now, we have the Archer. I actually use her a lot, and she can be really useful in a lot of matchups. The issue with her is that she isn't strong on her own. She's heavily dependent on the synergy with other troops of her traits. Ranger is a pretty strong trait, and Clan is just absolutely broken in my opinion. Being a part of strong traits makes up for her weak individual stats. If you're using the archer, try to level her up to at least 3 stars, else she will just suck. For now, I will place her in a C tier. Now, we have the Dart Goblin. He attacks super fast and deals good damage. He's good in the early stages of the game, where your opponents don't have many tanks on the board. A Dart Goblin combined with the Archers and the Princess forms the Ranger's trait. If you have all these 3 cards on the field, your opponent is definitely in for a rough time. The Dart Goblin will attack extremely fast and can destroy even high HP troops easily. His other trait is Goblin, which is good early on in the game. Overall, I feel like the Dart Goblin is balanced, but is overshadowed by other strong ranged units. Keeping that in mind, I will place him in the C tier. So now we have the Golden Knight. The Golden Knight is another broken card in the Assassin trait. It has just way too much damage and hit points. And the fact that he takes out troops so quickly regardless of their type is insane. Your backline troops are never safe if you're dealing with a Golden Knight. He will mostly always charge towards them and take them out. And if you have the full Assassin synergy, it's just quite tough to defend your backline troops. The Golden Knight is a decent card at his first star level, but he becomes disgustingly broken at higher levels. I'll place him in the A tier because he's just too good. Moving on, we have the Prince. Now, the Prince can be really helpful if you want to knock a unit like Giant Skeleton or Skeleton King to the back. But other than that, I feel like the Prince lacks good damage. His attacks are slow and he gets easily taken out by ranged units. While being a brawler, he also belongs to the Noble trait, which, in my opinion, is actually solid. The Prince can be a good card for the early stages of the game, but most players would sell him afterwards. I would put the Prince in the B tier, which is more than fair in my opinion. Moving on, we have the Skeleton King. This bloke has the highest hit points out of any troop, deals unreal area damage, and on top of that, summons a skeleton after he defeats a troop. While the 1 and 2 star versions of the Skeleton King are good, a 3-star version can basically wipe out 20 elixir worth of troops by itself. His massive damage also synergizes well with his Undead trait, since it becomes extremely easy to kill tanks using that. The Skeleton King goes right up in the S tier for how broken he is. Now, we have the Barbarian. As someone who's used this card a lot, I always try to level him up to 3 stars if I can. A 3 or 4 star Barbarian is enough to take down even big tanks. He's also good at winning you the early rounds of the game since he can beat the starter cards like Knight, Archers, or Goblins easily. The Barbarian is a part of the Clan trait, which, as I mentioned earlier, is just game breaking. His other trait is Brawler, which I think is also decent. Overall, the Barbarian is a super underrated card in my opinion. His only major downside is that you're basically forced to upgrade him in the later stages of the game, else he won't provide you much value. Oftentimes, player would prefer to upgrade other cards of their strategy first, rather than the Barbarian. I think I'll place him at the top of the C tier for now. Moving on, we have the Princess. The Princess is one of the strongest ranged units. She can take down multiple troops by herself if you manage to get her to a 3-star level or higher. Her arrows also deal damage in a 2-hex radius, making her a solid option to take down tanks placed close to each other. She's a part of the Noble and Ranger traits. The Ranger trait especially enhances her attack speed, making her basically unstoppable on offense. Therefore, the Princess deserves to be in a high B tier. Now, we have the Mega Knight. The Mega Knight is one of the tankiest cards in the game. While his damage might not be too impressive, it's his jump that does the job. You see, he will jump on the largest group of troops, then stun them all for 2 seconds, while also dealing damage to them. Those 2 seconds are crucial, as your other cards can finish off that group of troops rather quickly. The Mega Knight is featured in the Ace and Brawler trait, and is pretty much used in every stage of the game. A 3-star Mega Knight is already half the battle won. Considering how dominant he is, I'll place him in the A tier. Next up, we have the Bandit. She definitely needs a nerf because her dash ability is just stupid. Her dash deals bonus damage to everything in the way and also stuns for 1 second. And the fact that she keeps on dashing here and there so often is just game breaking. On top of that, she has the Ace and Avenger traits, which are obviously way too strong. If you have a 3-star Bandit with the Ace ability, you're almost guaranteed to win. I'm placing the Bandit right up in S tier because anything else is just dumb. Next, we have the Giant Skeleton. So, this is a card which you want destroyed soon. As he dies, he drops a huge bomb which deals massive damage to the enemy troops in a surrounding radius. The bomb also stuns enemies, immobilizing them for 2 seconds. The giant skeleton is extremely weak on its own, which makes him a horrible card for the early rounds. He's a part of the brawler and undead traits, both of which are pretty decent. But I feel like the giant skeleton is a really situational card. If he doesn't die early, you're basically losing that game for sure. And I would also like to add that his death bomb is not that strong in his first 2-star levels. Therefore, the giant skeleton goes in the C tier. Next up, we have the Goblin Machine. Okay, let me begin by saying that this card absolutely sucks if it's underleveled. But if you manage to get it to a higher star level, it's 100% game over for your opponent. A 3-star Goblin Machine will basically nuke out every ranged troop of your opponent, dealing massive damage while also stunning them for 1.5 seconds. That just sounds unfair, to be honest. Considering it's part of the Goblin trait, it's really easy to upgrade the Goblin Machine to a high star level. I would place the Goblin Machine in A tier because it's just super broken in a lot of scenarios. And finally, we have the Archer Queen. She's a part of Clan and Avenger traits, the 2 absolute best in the game. She can turn invisible at 50% HP and deal godly amounts of damage. Now, combine this with the fact that her traits allow her to heal, gain hit speed, and also deal double damage. Yeah, you're cooked if you see a 3-star Archer Queen. And she's undoubtedly the best card in Merge Tactics and belongs to the S tier. While upgrading cards in Merge Tactics is useful, it's even more necessary in the actual game. So if you don't want to waste your resources, click on this video to know what cards you should upgrade in Clash Royale.